So once you establish your big ideas, your assessment verbs, and your essential questions and enduring understandings, you're ready to move on to one of the most important parts of a curriculum, and that is noting the scope of the curriculum. So this is a beginning shot at that. There are a couple places in a UBD template or a UBD curriculum where we think about the scope, or in other words, scope meaning the total content that will be covered within a unit or within a school year, depending on how large or small and time-wise the unit is. So in looking at desired results, one of the things that we want to ask ourselves is, now that we have our big ideas, our assessment verbs, we know what the standards tell us about the cognitive levels our students should be thinking at, and we have our EUs and EQs set up, our next question is, what is the content? Or very specifically, what is the knowledge and what are the skills that need to be taught in order to get students to answer the essential questions of the course and contend with the big ideas. So all of this is still very much in alignment. The knowledge and the skills that you identify for a stage 1 desired results should support the big idea that you framed the unit around, and support the essential questions and enduring understandings that you framed the unit around. So I'm looking at a science UBD that was designed by one of my students, a rather good example. You can see that the first thing that the student did was to take a look at various standards in the next generation science standards and to unpack them, both for big ideas, again these nouns, these nouns in green, and for assessment verbs, which you see in yellow. So we went through that process in order to identify the big ideas that he was going to use. And so using his content knowledge, he moved on to the next step, which is, what are the various big ideas that could frame a unit that aren't explicitly mentioned up here in the standards, but that he knows, because he knows his content, support these standards. And then he ended up choosing his big ideas. And so he chose cycling, cost, and benefit as his guiding big ideas. And then for assessment verbs, he simply took the verbs from his standards and said, okay, this is the cognitive level that I need to design my unit around. This is what my students should be doing with the big ideas that I plan around. So they should be planning, designing, and evaluating, all pretty high up on the realm of Bloom's taxonomy and assessment verbs in general. So over to the right, he has his understandings and questions. In the next video, we'll talk about transfer a little bit more, so I won't focus on that here. But then below, in the acquisition stage, and again, the question here, what are the skills and knowledge students will acquire through the course of this unit, he's going to simply note, what will students know as a result of this unit, and what will students be skilled at? Now, there are a couple of important points here. As he's writing down his knowledge, he's simply isolating the raw knowledge. Almost, we could say, the raw topical big ideas that students will know as a result of this unit. When he moves over to skills, he's then going to pay close attention to his cognitive verbs: identifying, comparing, evaluating, determining, developing, and so on. In the skill, what denotes a skill is, in essence, a piece of knowledge paired with a cognitive verb that tells us to what degree a student is going to be considering or using that big idea. So as you move through this, make sure that on your knowledge side, you're simply isolating the more topical big ideas. These could be topical understandings. They could be definitions, but you're isolating the raw knowledge. And as you move over to skills, you're identifying those cognitive verbs in concert with big ideas.